Some warriors were so feared, their names alone could make empires tremble. They didn't just win battles, they rewrote history. One fought with a wooden sword and never lost. Another led an army of slaves against Rome itself. And one conqueror built an empire so vast, it stretched across continents. But who was the greatest warrior of all time? Today, we're counting down the top 10 deadliest fighters in history, and their stories will leave you speechless. War has shaped civilizations, toppled kings, and birthed legends. But among the countless warriors who have walked this earth, a select few stand above the rest, not just for their skill in combat, but for their sheer impact on the world. These were more than soldiers. They were tacticians, leaders, and forces of nature who defied the impossible. Some fought for glory, others for revenge, and a few simply because no one could stop them. Today, we're ranking the 10 greatest warriors ever known, based on their battlefield prowess, strategic genius, and the terror they inspired in their enemies. This isn't just a list. It's a journey through blood, steel, and unbreakable will. And by the end, you'll understand why these legends still haunt history. 10. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai. Japan's greatest swordsman. A man who lived by the blade and never knew defeat. Musashi's life was a series of duels, over 60, and he won every single one. But his most legendary fight wasn't even with a real sword. At just 21 years old, he faced Sasaki Kojiro, a master swordsman known for his devastating swallow-cut technique. Musashi arrived late, on purpose, to unnerve his opponent. And instead of a katana, he carved a wooden sword from an oar. In a single strike, he killed Kojiro. But Musashi wasn't just a fighter. He was a philosopher. His Book of Five Rings remains one of the most influential texts on strategy, teaching not just how to fight, but how to think. By the end of his life, he abandoned dueling altogether, because no one was left who could challenge him. 9. Boudica, the flame of vengeance. A queen, a widow, a mother pushed to the brink. When Rome betrayed her, Boudica didn't beg for mercy, she unleashed hell. After her husband's death, Roman soldiers flogged her and assaulted her daughters. That was their mistake. Rallying the Celtic tribes, she led a rebellion so brutal, it nearly wiped Rome off the map. Her forces burned Londinium, modern-day London, to the ground, slaughtering thousands. When the Roman Ninth Legion marched to stop her, she annihilated them. For a brief, glorious moment, it looked like Rome would lose Britain forever. But in the end, superior Roman tactics overwhelmed her forces. Rather than be captured, she took poison, choosing death over chains. Today, she's a symbol of resistance, proving that even the mightiest empire can bleed. 8. Saladin, the noble conqueror. A warrior who commanded respect, even from his enemies. Saladin wasn't just a brilliant general. He was a master of war and diplomacy. When he recaptured Jerusalem from the Crusaders in 1187, he could have slaughtered its inhabitants. Instead, he showed mercy, a stark contrast to the bloodshed when the Crusaders first took the city. Even Richard the Lionheart, his greatest rival, admired him. His greatest victory? The Battle of Hattin, where he trapped the Crusader army in the desert, cut off their water, and crushed them. It was a masterpiece of strategy, proving that sometimes, patience is deadlier than the sword. 7. Spartacus, the gladiator who defied Rome. A slave who became a legend. Spartacus was trained to die for Rome's entertainment, but he had other plans. Leading a revolt of gladiators and slaves, he turned Rome's own brutality against them. For 2 years, he outmaneuvered legion after legion, defeating armies that should have crushed him. At his peak, he commanded over 100,000 rebels. Rome was so terrified, they sent their best general, Crassus, to stop him. Even then, Spartacus fought to the last breath. His rebellion failed, but his name became eternal. He proved that even the mightiest empire could be challenged. 6. Attila the Hun, the scourge of God. The Romans didn't just fear him, they believed he was divine punishment. Attila's horsemen were the original blitzkrieg, striking faster than any army could react. He didn't just raid, he erased cities. When he demanded tribute from Rome, they paid him in gold just to keep him away. His empire stretched from the steppes to Germany, and his name alone could make kings surrender without a fight. But Attila didn't die in battle. He died on his wedding night, choking on his own blood. Some say it was a nosebleed. Others think it was poison. Either way, the world breathed a sigh of relief when he was gone. 5. Leonidas of Sparta, the king of the 300. A man who chose death over surrender. When Persia invaded Greece with an army of hundreds of thousands, Leonidas took 300 Spartans to stop them. For 3 days, they held the narrow pass of Thermopylae, slaughtering wave after wave of Persian soldiers. They fought until their spears broke, then their swords, then their fists. In the end, they died, but their sacrifice inspired all of Greece to rise up. And because of them, Persia never conquered the West. 4. Genghis Khan, the emperor of the Mongol horde. The most successful conqueror in history. Genghis didn't just win battles. He rewrote the map. He united the Mongol tribes, then turned them into an unstoppable force. His armies moved faster than any before them, using terror as a weapon. If a city resisted, he wiped it off the earth. If they surrendered, he spared them and recruited their soldiers. By the time he died, his empire stretched from China to Europe, and his descendants would go even further. 3. Hannibal Barca, the man who almost destroyed Rome. He was Rome's greatest fear made flesh, a military genius who crossed impossible mountains, outwitted superior armies, and brought the mighty Roman Republic to its knees. For 15 years, Hannibal Barca haunted Italy like a ghost, striking where he wasn't expected and vanishing before Rome could strike back. But how did this Carthaginian general, fighting thousands of miles from home, nearly destroy history's greatest empire? The oath that forged a legend. At just 9 years old, Hannibal knelt before the altar of Baal and swore eternal hatred toward Rome. His father, Hamilcar Barca, a veteran of Rome's first defeat of Carthage, made him drink the blood of a sacrificed animal to seal this promise. From that moment, Hannibal's destiny was set. He would become Rome's reckoning, the impossible march that shocked the world. In 218 BC, Hannibal did what Rome thought unthinkable. Led 40,000 soldiers and 37 war elephants across the frozen Alps. Lost nearly half his men to avalanches, frostbite, and tribal attacks. Arrived in Italy with just 26,000 starving troops and 3 surviving elephants. Yet this weakened force would become Rome's worst nightmare. But in the end, they outlasted him. Still, his strategies are still taught in military schools today. 2. Achilles, the invincible warrior. Born for battle, forged in divine fire, and feared by armies and gods alike, Achilles wasn't just a warrior. He was a force of nature. His name alone could turn the tide of war. The Greeks needed him. The Trojans dreaded him. And history would never forget him. But what made this demigod the most feared fighter of the ancient world? A demigod's destiny. From the moment of his birth, Achilles was destined for greatness. His mother, the sea nymph Thetis, knew he would either live a long, forgotten life or die young and achieve eternal glory. To make him invincible, she dipped him in the sacred river Styx, but missed one spot, his heel. Raised by the wise centaur Chiron, Achilles mastered every weapon by age 10. He could outrun deer, wrestle lions, and, according to legend, kill a man with a single glance. By the time the Trojan War began, he was already a living legend. The wrath that changed history. Achilles' rage was as legendary as his skill. When King Agamemnon stole his war prize, the enslaved Princess Briseis, Achilles didn't just protest, he quit the war entirely. Without him, the Greeks faced slaughter. But when his beloved cousin Patroclus was killed by Hector, Prince of Troy, Achilles' grief erupted into unholy fury. Donning armor forged by the god Hephaestus himself, he returned to battle, not for glory, but for vengeance. 1. Alexander the Great, the king who conquered the world. At just 20 years old, he became king. By 25, he had crushed the Persian Empire. By 30, his empire stretched across 3 continents, and he was just getting started. Alexander the Great didn't just win battles. He rewrote the rules of warfare itself. His name became synonymous with invincibility. But how did a young prince from Macedonia become the greatest conqueror in history? The making of a legend. Born in 356 BC, Alexander was no ordinary prince. His father, King Philip II of Macedon, hired the philosopher Aristotle to tutor him. But while Alexander learned about science and philosophy, his true passion was war. By 16, he was commanding cavalry. By 18, he led his first victorious battle. And when his father was assassinated, Alexander didn't just inherit a kingdom, he inherited an army unlike any the world had ever seen. So, who do you think deserves the title of greatest warrior? Let us know in the comments. If you loved this journey through history's deadliest fighters, smash that like button and subscribe to QuirkQuarry for more epic rankings. And don't go yet, there's another video on the screen right now that you have to see. Until next time, stay curious, and remember, history's greatest warriors didn't just fight, they changed the world. Goodbye.